I was going to, for our agenda, go over choosing a path, complete a lesson, and then request and receive approval when you finish a lesson. That better now? Yay! Okay, welcome everybody. Today I'm going to go over a few things in Pathways to help with your club members as they transition to Pathways. So let's get started. The agenda will be choosing a path, complete a lesson, request and receive approval after you've finished a lesson. So in choosing a path, you're going to log into Pathways. You click on the Pathways button, and then over on the upper right, you'll see in the white bar, choose a path. You're going to click on that. And then you will log in with your username and password. And then you'll see three boxes. And on the far left, you'll see continue to path selection. You'll click on that. And you can either do it for yourself, which will be most of the time. You could, if a member is doesn't have a computer, you can help another member choose their path. But for right now, we're just going to go over you for yourself. So the first thing that you'll do is take an assessment. And you'll have a choice between selecting printed materials, which would be $25, and they'll send those to you in the mail. Or you can do base camp, and it's free. Your first path has already been included in the fees that you pay when you joined. And most people will be selecting the online path. It's really easy to use. I like it. So click Take Your Assessment. And this is what you'll see. And you'll pick the language that you want. So you drop down and pick English, unless you have another language that you're more comfortable with. And then you click Start. Then you'll be requesting 3 topics that you are most interested in learning about. So when you joined Toastmasters, what were those goals that you wanted to set for yourself? So in this one, we have public speaking, leadership, and change management. And the choices that you pick are going to help decide which path is recommended for you. So after you've made your decision, you can click Next. And then of the 3 that you picked, which is the most important for you to learn about? And so you'll make your choice and then click Next. And then you'll get 3 options that, based on your answers, that came up for you. You can choose the first one, which is the best match. You can choose that path if you like it. You can look at the other 2 options and see if you would like one of those 2. Or you can choose an alternate. And if you already know what path you want to take, then you can go ahead and click it from the drop-down list. I recommend, after you get your choices, to take a look at the projects within those, and I'll show you how to do that in a minute. So here's where you can see that projects catalog. I gave you the path that you can use for that. It's on the District 57 website. It's a catalog of all the projects that are available in Pathways. This is what it looks like. So you have the 11 paths, and you'll pick the ones that you're interested in. And that's what I did. Of the 3 that were suggested to me, I clicked on each of them separately and then looked at what those paths entail. So once you select on the path, you're going to see the 5 levels. And within the 5 levels, there'll be the different activities that you can have required, and some of them, like the electives, you can pick the number that's required, or you can choose more if you want to. And then once you see this page and look at the different options that are available to you, you can click on any one that's red, has a link to it, And I just picked one. And this is a project description. It'll give you the purpose of that path or that activity, an overview description of what you'll be doing in that path, and then what the activities, like this one has a 5 to 7 minute speech, and then a questionnaire for discovering your leadership style. So what I recommend is printing these out so that you can see them. Print them out on your computer, or you can just review them online. But to go over each of the possibilities and decide, does this project have the items that will help me the most in my growth? Am I willing to commit to these items? Because some of them you might say, I don't like that. I'm not interested in doing to that. And when I get to that point, it's going to be a roadblock because I don't want to do that. So then that wouldn't be the right path for you, or the right activity. And so then you would want to look at other things that's going to help you proceed. So once you've chosen the path, then the next part is completing a lesson. So you're going to access your path through Basecamp. This shows you how. You'll log into Pathways if you logged out, and log in as a member. And then there's several ways to do this, but this is the easiest. My education transcript, you're going to click on that. And then you'll see your chosen path, and then on the lower right corner, you'll click on Open Curriculum. And then you'll see you'll start with a level 1. This happened to be level 3 because that's what I'm working on right now. But you'll click the launch button that's over on the right, and that will start your project. Now, when I do my different levels in the projects within the levels, the first thing that I do is go to the bottom of the screen where it says select to move to another selection or section, and I click on your evaluation. When you do that, you will get to the end of your path, but on the right-hand side that I like is your resources. And within the resources, you have the items required to complete that level. So I have, in this one, an evaluation resource. You're going to want to print that out and give that to the person that's going to evaluate your speech for this project. You can print your project, which I also like to do. It will give me a paper copy that I can take with me, and I can read it when I have spare time, on my work day or afterwards. I don't need to be tied to the computer. And it also gives you all of the forms that you're going to need. Sometimes there's cheat sheets and worksheets to help you complete the project. And so I like to have that all printed so I can write on it, keep my notes, and all of that. And then I also have my project completion form, and that would be what you print and give to your VPE when you finish the project. You do want to be careful because I've done this. In fact, I did this the last time I was teaching the class. After you do your evaluations, the next part is assess your skills. And if you page through that, you're going to finish your project too early. And you will still be able to go back and start over to the introduction and start from the beginning, but it will show in the computer that you finished this particular project. So just be careful of that. So then afterwards, like see, you click down at the bottom, assess your skills after. This is when you've completed everything. And you'll take the assessment skills. And you'll say, now that you've finished your project, how do you feel about different topics? And they give you questions to work through, and you pick. Did you learn a lot? You pick a number 5. If you still feel uncomfortable or that you need more work in that area, then you can pick 1 through 4. And this will compare the assessment that you took at the beginning of your project and now that you finished it to compare how you've grown. So you click the next button and go through the series of questions. Then after you do that, then you'll click the submit button. And this is where it will show you your feedback, what you selected beforehand, what you selected afterwards, and then the statements for each of the questions that you were asked. And then completing your projects, your levels, and your awards online. When you finish the project, you'll take your assessment, and then it will say that you've finished your project, congratulations. And then you log back out and you'll do the last part of the level instructions that say completion level. You click that and you'll send a note. We'll send it to Toastmasters and show that you've completed that. And here's what it looks like. So I finished my level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have the check marks for those. And then at the bottom, it says activate. So level 1 completion for this motivational strategies, activate it, and that will show that you finished that level. And then it'll say mark complete. Yes. That's real important to do. So when you do that, your Basecamp manager, which can be your VPE, your president, or your secretary, those are the 3 club officers that have access to Basecamp, and they will mark you. They'll get a notice that you completed your level, and then they have to log into Basecamp in Pathways and approve it. And then they also have to log into Club Central and log the completion there. Sometimes the VPE or president will forget to go, they'll do one but not the other, and then it doesn't fully show that you've completed it, so they need to make sure that they go into both sections. And when I finish a level, I like to send a note to my VPE and just say, I finished my level, would you please log into Basecamp and Club Central and approve it? And I do that for 2 reasons. One, I like to let them know that they should be expecting an email just in case the email address that's recorded in Pathways or Club Central isn't correct. So this way they know that you finished your level. They can go in without receiving the email and do the approvals, and that way it gets done faster. And it's also a reminder, if they get an email from you, they know who you are, and it doesn't go to junk mail or some other place like that. And then I was doing questions and answers.
Well, I certainly learned something here. I know that I've approved someone who's completed a level. I'm a vice president of education in one of my clubs, but I did not go to Club Central and do any kind of logging of the completion. So I'm going to have to check that out.
Yes. So just like you would in the old program where you went into Club Central and there's the awards section,
yes,
the education section, they have to go into that section and make the approval.
Okay. I might have done that and forgotten, but I have a sneaking hunch I didn't.
Yeah, when I send the email to my VPE, I always list, can you approve it in Pathways, and then log it in so that they know that there's 2 steps.
Yeah, I know that I was confused at first as I was finishing levels that there's actually nobody checking on that except for me, which is fine because Toastmasters is a self-education program.
Right.
If somebody were to try and cheat, all they're doing is cheating themselves.
Exactly. Yes. The approval in Pathways is super easy.
Yeah. So getting through the levels, and then all you have to have is the vice president of education say, "Oh yeah, I saw all those speeches," or "No, I know that Dennis went and gave a speech at another club, but I read the evaluation, so I know that this is kosher." And
Yes.
boom, there you go. I have a comment from Lindy here. I realize this is. Oh, I see. Lindy, you realize that this is being recorded, so we're going to be able to use this. There we go. Okay.
Yes. Does she have any questions?
Yeah, do you have any questions for us? Nope. Yeah, she's just making the point that Lindy and I are fairly familiar with this. Actually, I'm not as familiar with it as Lindy is. So this has already been very helpful for me.
So do you have other questions on tips and tricks?
Well, first off, I'd like to hear any tips and tricks that you want to share. But the burning question is, how have you been dealing with clubs? And this is fairly common in the struggling clubs right now.
Mhm.
We've got some longtime members who didn't necessarily embrace the old education program. They haven't moved much past competent communicator. Maybe they've got an advanced communicator bronze. These are the people, the anchors of the club. They're the people that other people come because they're friendly, because they enjoy hearing their speeches, even though they're not working the system and doing the manuals the way they should. Now we've got brand new members coming in, and they're being told, hey, you're going to learn your communication and leadership skills, but they don't have any guidance from the longtime members for how to get started in Pathways. So how have you been dealing with that problem, or have you got some suggestions for ways that you can get people motivated in Pathways when the existing members are not motivated?
Yes. We have an excellent program. Bet and I have been working on it. It's called the Vice President of Pathways. And in this program, where the clubs are willing, we're going to have a VP of Pathways in each of the clubs, and that person will help the members, especially the new members, get acclimated into using Pathways. Now, if there isn't anybody in the club willing or able to mentor the new members, then we're going to have Pathways ambassadors like we did when it first rolled out. And these will be people who live locally, so they can visit those clubs individually. They can help with training. They can point them to the different materials on District 57 website, sessions like this that are being recorded. And then we're also going to have monthly meetings on a Zoom conference call like this, where we can talk about tips and tricks, and the ambassadors will learn things and take those back to the clubs that are struggling with this. Also, on September 28th, we're having our Pathways kickoff, and that's going to be on Saturday. It'll start with a lunch, and then Cindy Latch, who's our regional advisor, is flying in from Minnesota, and she's going to give a 1-hour talk on dealing with change and helping people to overcome resistance to change, and she's going to give us a lot of tips. So I'm hoping a lot of our people that are signing up for the VPP role will be able to attend the luncheon, pick up these tips on change management that Cindy's going to give us, and then that will help us take back and overcome some of the resistance that we're getting from people in the club.
Well, that all sounds great. So pretend that I'm a friend of yours.
Mm-hmm.
I like you very much, but I'm not a close friend. I'm talking about an intimate. And that person is having trouble. What are the sneaky little tricks that you would want that person to know for working the Pathways program?
The things that I find most helpful are to make sure that you choose the right path, because if you're not motivated by the path, then you're not going to be very motivated in completing it. So you want to find one of the paths, whether it's recommended or not, that makes you excited. Yeah, and hopefully that coincides with why you joined Toastmasters. Is it going to help you in your personal life, in your career? There's got to be something there that relates to that. And then the second thing I would say is to use that tool that has all the paths so that you can look forward in the different levels and kind of picture the different activities that you're going to have, so that when opportunities come up, you can say, oh, I'm going to need that in a future level. And one of the great things is when they just did some updates in Pathways, we can now see directly in our paths the different levels where we couldn't do that before. So that's been something that's really great. And that way, if you need to do a small project and your club is having an open house, you can choose to be the chair for that open house. So that can be the small group project that you're leading, and then you would get credit for that. And just look for different ways that you can fit things that come up into your levels. And the other thing, and we just discussed this at my club this morning, was to get in a rhythm where you're giving speeches on a regular basis, whether once a month, every 6 weeks, something like that, because then you're more apt to see progress, you're going to stay with it, and it will continue in a pretty smooth way. If you have long lapses in between when you're doing your speeches, then it's going to get harder to get started again. So like when you're doing an exercise program, you go to the gym every day, and it's easy, you're in that rhythm. I know after work, I'm going to go to the gym. And then all of a sudden you go on vacation or you get sick, and you get out of that habit. And then it's like, oh, I don't really feel like going, I'll go tomorrow, and blah, blah, blah. And then pretty soon you're not going to the gym at all. And I think that's what happens with some of our members. So when I joined, it was recommended to do a speech every 4 to 6 weeks. And that's what I tried to do. Now, sometimes work gets in the way and I can't make it to a meeting, but I try to, when they're putting out the schedule, in my club right now, they're planning to schedule the October-November speaking spots. And so it's like, okay, I know what levels I'm doing. I can see what projects I'm going to have to do. So I'm going to do a speech every 4 to 6 weeks, and I'm going to sign up with the VPE and make sure that gets done.
Let me throw a couple of other ideas in there, because it's important to me that I move quickly through the program, and the reason is that I want to sort of be a trailblazer.
Yes.
I've gone through some of the paths so that I can help people. I didn't realize, for example, that the first two paths are essential, or sorry, the first two levels in a path are essentially the same, no matter which path you've chosen, because you're going to do the lessons that have to do with being evaluated and giving evaluation, and you're going to have the one that has to do with the researching your speech. You're going to, even as you start level 3, it's pretty much the same thing, where you're saying, I'm going to define my visionary leadership. I'm going to define my leadership style. I'm going to define my communication style. So there's a lot of consistency between the three. If I'd known that, I probably wouldn't have chosen presentation mastery as my first choice. I'm a DTM.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I chose presentation mastery is because I want to be able to help other people.
Right.
And I thought that one would be the most common, but having chosen it, and it's perfectly fine. I enjoy the program that I'm working through, but almost no one else that I know has chosen presentation mastery. They've gone for the effective coaching or the inspirational leadership, because these things are more interesting to them. So I wish that I had been able to look at all of the paths before I began, something that people can do now. So that's pretty.
Yes.
I also want to say something about the pace at which people work. 4 to 6 weeks is a fine bellwether, but the fact is there is nothing stopping people, particularly in struggling clubs, from really whipping right through these lessons. This summer we had a lot of people who were missing meetings, or they had signed up to give a speech, but for whatever reason they felt they didn't have time to prepare. Well, every time I complete a speech, I write my next one immediately. I write the next day.
Yes.
And be sure that I've got 2 or 3 speeches ready to go. And if I show up at a meeting and one of the speakers has had to drop out, I can jump in, not just with the pocket speech, but with actually a lesson. So this summer I was able to go from level 1 on August 8th to level 2, complete level 2 on August 21st.
Yes.
Less than 2 weeks later, just by having a speech ready so that I could jump in to help out. So I call it tortoise and hare. Some people are going to go at a tortoise pace, and I would say that 4 to 6 weeks is slow and steady, and you're going to get through. But if you wanted to go be the hare and go much quicker, you could give a speech every 2 weeks in a club that's only got 6 to 8 members. And unless everybody is jumping in, if everybody's jumping in, then you're going to give a speech once a month. But if some of the people are reluctant to speak, you can actually speak every week in some of these clubs. And if you do, you'll whisk right through. So it's actually an advantage in some of these smaller clubs. Now, the nice thing is that whether you're a tortoise or a hare, ultimately we all cross the same finish line. So we all win.
Yes. So 2 things that I wanted to mention about that is, on the speeches, some people are reluctant to give their speech because they haven't perfected it. They haven't practiced it enough. They want to make it perfect. And I tell the people in my club who have these long lapses, don't worry about it being perfect. Just do the speech. That's more important. I said a bad speech, I heard this somewhere in one of the conferences somewhere, a bad speech is better than no speech. So if you give a bad speech, you're going to get feedback, and that will help you grow. If you sit in the sidelines and you never give a speech, you're not going to get any kind of feedback, and there's no growth there.
Yes. So perfect is the enemy of good enough.
Yes.
But good is the enemy of great. And so even though I do my speeches, like I say, I write them immediately, I do practice them.
Yes. Oh, yes.
The thing that I'm always trying to drum into people in my clubs, I don't prepare to speak to 10 people at the back of a Denny's. Mm-hmm. Every time I prepare a speech, I'm getting ready to speak to an audience of 300 people, 1,000 people, so that when those opportunities arise, I'll be ready. But if I've only prepared to speak to 10 people in a Denny's, that's the only speaking opportunity I'll ever get.
Right.
All right. This has been extremely helpful. Do you have any other tips you wanted to share?
I think in choosing the path, you want to make sure that the path you choose is putting you, and when you're choosing the activities to participate in, step just outside your comfort zone. So that way there's always a little bit of growth that's going on. And don't choose things just because it's easy and you're comfortable with that activity. Find things that you're willing to do that are going to stretch you just a tiny bit.
Yeah, I've heard it said, anything that's going to actually help you grow is always outside your comfort zone.
Yes.
Yep. So that's really good advice. Now, one thing that Lindy pointed out is that if you don't like your path, you can actually switch within 30 days. Had you heard that?
Yes.
Oh.
You can do that. Mm-hmm.
I wish I'd known that 30 days ago.
Oh.
No, I'm fine though. I'm gonna finish presentation mastery rather quickly, and then I'll get to do another one.
Yes.
Yeah,
I'm working on my second one.
Yeah, it's quite a year because I'm trying to finish my second DTM on the legacy program, and
Mm-hmm.
I've got 4 speeches to go, and I'm working my HPL project. Actually, these sessions are my HPL project. Yay! So
Yay!
You're helping me to earn that second DTM. But
Perfect. That's what it is. We're all helping each other. And along that lines, I'm working on the DTM myself, but each year I also work on the Outstanding Achievement Toastmasters Award, the OATM. And I like that because it has the different categories of speeches and membership and education and those kinds outside of your leadership. But the first 2 have to do with pathways. So I know this year I need to complete level 3 on my first one, and then level 4 and 5. So I know by June 30th I need to get through, X, Y, and Z, so that I can keep an eye on that. And I have a goal, and now I've got a plan, and that helps me schedule the speeches that I need to do.
I wish everyone knew the fun of Toastmasters actually begins when you get outside the 4 walls of your home club.
Yes.
Because as great as they are, and some people, they spend 30, 40 years just going to their club once a week, and they don't actually get out to the conferences, the speech contests, and take part in these activities that contribute to the Outstanding Toastmaster Award. And it's nice to get the award, it's nice to get the bling, but the real reward is going out and meeting people and talking Toastmasters and really expanding your horizons.
Yes, it helps with the growth. I've grown a lot by going outside of the club. Even if I haven't participated in a contest, but I have gone to the contest and I've been a judge in the contest. And so just listening to other people helps you grow. And then taking on projects like the Pathways Chair and the division director and the area director, those all help with your leadership and your communication, talking to people that you don't know and leading people, motivating people. It's all good skills that you can take back to your personal life or your career. So that's what I really like about it.
Yes, well, it's funny because you step into these big roles, the division director, the district governor, in my case, at one point, and what really sticks out in my memory isn't getting up in front of everybody and running a business meeting. It's the individuals where you see a spark go on. I said to one person one time, if it's not if you're not having fun, it's not Toastmasters.
Right.
That's the little quote I said. And you've heard that before. You hear it from people all the time. If it's not fun, it's not Toastmasters. I said it at a particular time when this person needed to hear that. And he went on actually to become a district leader.
Yes.
Later on. But he was on the verge of quitting. But when I said that to him, he said, you know what? I'm going to go back to my club and I'm going to make the meetings more fun. And it just turned on the leadership in him. So you never know who you're going to touch. You never know what little thing you can do that can actually turn somebody's life around. Right. That can happen in Toastmasters. All right. Well, I wish that people had shown up to ask questions. What I'll do, of course, I'm going to post the video. If they have follow-up questions, I'm going to forward them to you, Janice.
Yes, please.
And we can either, if we get a pile of questions, we'll just bring you back.
Okay.
Okay. And if we get a few, then we'll answer them individually, and we'll post the answers so everyone can see them.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, thank you very much for taking the time this evening. Lindy, thank you for showing up.
Yes.
And we'll see everybody next week.
All right. Thank you.
Good night now. Thank you.
Good night.